we'll start with the today's lecture. So we'll be starting with the pons, and we all know by the knowledge of our brainstem, the demo also you had yesterday, that it is the middle part of the brainstem. The literal meaning of the pons is bridge. So it is basically bridging between the different portions of the brainstem, that is the midbrain and the medulla, also bridges different parts of the brain. So and also to the cerebellum. So from one side of the cerebellum to the other side of the cerebellum, it acts like a bridge, and through the middle cerebellar peduncle, it is connected. And it is also a bridge between the medulla and the midbrain. So that is why it is named pons. Now, it is very important because important vital center, that is the center for respiration, is lying over here. And that is why the pontine lesions are often fatal. And few cranial nerve nuclei are also originating from this level, that is the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th cranial nerve. And in demonstration also yesterday, you must have seen the origin point of the 5th cranial nerve, which is to the lateral edges of the pons, where it continues into the middle cerebellar peduncle. This is the origin of the 5th cranial nerve. Then the 6th, 7th, and 8th, they were coming out from the pontomedullary junction. The cranial nerves were emerging out, but their nuclei are present. The cranial nerve nuclei are very well present inside the level into the interior aspect of the pons. Now we'll see the external features of the pons. So pons this is the ventral view, and this is the posterior view of the brainstem. So we can see that it is lying between the medulla and the midbrain. And in relation to the cerebellum, it is lying in front. So behind the pons, you have the cerebellum, and it is separated by the cerebellum through the 4th ventricle. It is approximately 2.5 centimeter in length, and it has got two surfaces. This is the ventral surface or the anterior surface, and this one is the posterior surface or the dorsal surface. And the dorsal surface, you can see this will be the area of the 4th ventricle through which it is communicating with the aspect of the cerebellum. Now, if we see the posterior surface in detail, now let us see the posterior surface. Now, in the posterior surface, you can appreciate this is the area of the 4th ventricle. And in this area, again, you can see this posterior median sulcus right here. And lateral to it, there is one more circle, which is called as the sulcus limitans on both the sides. Between the median sulcus, posterior median sulcus, and sulcus limitans, this is a area in the median plane. In this plane, you can appreciate two swellings on both the sides. So this is a dorsal view of the pons. You can appreciate two swellings on both the sides. This is the very important landmark. These are known as the facial colliculus. Now we'll learn what is lying underneath this facial colliculus. So this was the anterior aspect of the pons, which you can see, and the anterior aspect is characteristically has a sulcus or a depressed area linearly arranged, which is called as the basilar sulcus, into which lies the basilar artery. So now we begin with the ventral surface first. So this is the ventral surface, and it is convex in shape and characteristically has this basilar sulcus over which there is a lodgement of basilar artery. And then appreciate one more structure, that these pons transversely running fibers can be visualized over here grossly as well. Can you see over here? There are some transversely running fibers which are going laterally, and together all these transverse fibers are creating a bundle, and those bundle and are then continuous with the middle cerebellar peduncle. So this is the area of middle cerebellar peduncle through which it will be in communication with the cerebellum. So the junction between the middle cerebellar peduncle and the ventral aspect of the pons, this is marked by the emergence of 5th cranial nerve, that is the trigeminal nerve. So the trigeminal nerve, you must have seen yesterday also during demonstration, it was emerging exactly at this point where the pons ventral surface and the middle cerebellar peduncle was situated. And varying from the pontomedullary junction, these are the cranial nerves in relation, but their nuclei, remember, will be present at the level of the pons. Now, the 5th nerve that is emerging out at the junction of the ventral aspect of the pons and the middle cerebellar peduncle. You can clearly appreciate that there is a small there is a small motor root and a large sensory root of trigeminal nerve that it is emerging out. So over here also this is a large sensory root and a smaller motor root. Through these two roots, the trigeminal nerve. So there is a nucleus inside the trigeminal nerve nucleus, but the point of emergence, the nucleus of trigeminal was still the medulla you had seen. So it has, the nucleus is quite extensive. The emerging point is through this junction of pons and the middle cerebellar peduncle, and it emerges with a smaller motor root and a larger sensory root. The shallow groove over the ventral aspect in the median plane. This is the basilar groove or the basilar sulcus for the basilar artery. And if in relation to the cranial cavity, when you want to see it, it will be related to the dorsum sellae and the basiocciput part of the cranial cavity. Now coming to the dorsal aspect of the pons, the dorsal aspect of the pons, you can see this is actually related, this over here, when you had seen this stria medullaris above this is the area of the pons. Actually you have to differentiate because the opened part of the medulla will be seen continuous with the posterior or the dorsal aspect of the pons. So with the stria medullaris, you can clearly see that this below this is the region of the open part of the medulla, and above this was the region of the pons. So this is basically the upper part of the fourth ventricle. The posterior aspect of the pons is the upper part of the fourth ventricle, and the laterally, if you see, they will be limited by the superior cerebellar peduncle. So these has been marked: the superior cerebellar peduncle, the middle cerebellar peduncle, and inferior cerebellar peduncle, because you have cut the cerebellum to show the posterior view of the brainstem. So you can see the continuation of this superior cerebellar peduncle right from the midbrain, and this middle cerebellar peduncle which was cut through the pons, and this inferior cerebellar peduncle which is continuous from the medulla to the cerebellum. So laterally, the limit of the posterior aspect will be the superior cerebellar peduncle, and posteriorly it will be related to the cerebellum. The fourth ventricle, and also in the posterior view, if you see, this was the very important landmark on the posterior aspect. These were the two facial colliculus. And then on the dorsal surface, if we want to visualize through the lateral view, this is the lateral view. So you can see clearly this pons, this is the region of the pons. This is the region of the ponto-medullary junction. And this is the area of the fourth ventricle, which is a diamond-shaped cavity, rhomboid cavity. And in this fourth ventricle, you can see the fourth ventricle upper part is formed by the posterior aspect of the pons, and the lower part is formed by the open part of the medulla. And this was the closed part of the medulla, which is not in relation to the fourth ventricle. It had its own central canal. And look carefully into the pons right now. Now in the pons, you can appreciate this is a ventral part and this is a dorsal part. So the pons, in the lateral view, you can appreciate the two portions of the pons, that is the ventral part and the dorsal part. We'll come to this in subsequent slide. And look above, this is the midbrain. So in the midbrain, we'll learn the midbrain in the next lecture. So this is the cavity of the midbrain, which is the aqueduct of Sylvius, which is continuous with the fourth ventricle, and this fourth ventricle is continuous with the central canal of medulla, which continues into the central canal of spinal cord. And this fourth ventricle is opening into the third ventricle, which is between the diencephalon, which continues into the lateral ventricle between the cerebral cavity. So now internally, if we see the structures of the pons when it is cut, so this lateral view is showing a little bit portion of the internal aspect. So internally, the pons is divided into a ventral part and a dorsal part. The ventral part is called as the basilar part. This is the ventral part. If you have cut it through this plane, this is the anterior and this is the posterior plane. So this section in the anterior aspect, this is the ventral or the basilar part. You can appreciate the basilar sulcus also over here. So this is a diagram that you should be able to draw. So this is a ventral segment from this part to this part, having the basilar sulcus. The posterior arrow marked area, this is the tegmentum part or the posterior part. So this is called as the tegmentum of pons. Remember, there was a term called tectum. Tectum is for the midbrain posterior aspect. So the superior colliculus and inferior colliculus, this area is tectum. and the posterior aspect of pons is called as the tegmentum, or the posterior aspect of the pons. So these are the two parts of the internally, if you see, two portions of the pons. So let's begin with the basilar part first, which is this anterior part of the pons. This is the basilar part on which you have the basilar sulcus. So transversely, so in the vertical plane, you have the basilar sulcus on the superficial aspect. Now, internally in the basilar part, when you cut, you will find that there are transversely running fibers. Can you appreciate in this picture? There are fibers which are going in transverse plane. So these transversely running fibers are creating middle cerebellar peduncle. This is the area of middle cerebellar peduncle. So these transversely running fibers on both the sides are going to constitute the middle cerebellar peduncle. Then there are some vertically running fibers also. Vertically running fibers will be appreciable more into the lateral view. If you have cut it, so you can faintly see over here, these are the vertically running fibers. So the vertically running fibers could be what? What is running vertically down the pons? There will be the vertical fibers will be the pyramidal fibers. So the corticospinal fibers, corticospinal and the corticonuclear. So these, can you see in this picture, this is the corticonuclear and the corticospinal bundle, which have been cut because it is a longitudinal vertically running fiber. So when you cut it, it will appear in cut section like this. And the transversely running fibers, they will be cut in a cut section, in a transverse section, they will be having a linear orientation. So these linearly oriented transversely running fibers are the transverse fibers which are forming the middle cerebellar peduncle, and these cut sections are the cut sections of longitudinally vertically running fibers, the pyramidal fibers, corticonuclear, corticospinal fibers. And these descending fibers which are entering into the pons, they were entering because in the midbrain they were a compact bundle, remember, from the crus cerebri. So this is the tectum part of the midbrain, and this is the ventral part of the midbrain, which is called as the crus cerebri or the cerebral peduncle. So they were passing through the middle portions of the cerebral peduncle, remember, as a compact bundle. But once they reach the pons, they break into many bundles because there are many pontine nuclei also, and transversely running fibers also. So because of that, this compact arrangement of the corticonuclear and corticospinal fibers, they will break into many bundles. So that is why this distorted shape of the corticospinal and corticonuclear fibers is seen, because of the interspersed pontine fibers in between. So they are scattered now at the level of the pons. Unlike in the midbrain, they were in the shape of a compact bundle. So remember, internally, so all these fibers, the transversely running fiber, the pyramidal fibers, they are all present only in the ventral aspect, that is the basilar part of the pons. So all these structures in the basilar part. In the tegmental part, you will find these sensory, mostly the sensory this ascending tracts over here. So the descending ones are occupying the more ventral position in the internally into the basilar part of the pons. Apart from these transversely running and the vertically running fibers, you have these gray matter nuclei. These are the pontine nuclei, scattered masses of gray matter. These are called as the pontine nuclei. So these are the three structures that you will see in the basilar part. Now come to the tegmental part. Now tegmental part will contain rest of the tracts apart from the corticospinal. So mostly the ascending and the rest of the descending tracts will be present in the tegmentum part, and there will be certain cranial nerve nuclei. Remember, I told you about those cranial nerves. So these are the cranial nerves. The cranial nerve 6 and 7. These are the two common which is present, and the cochlear nucleus, the vestibular nucleus, they are all present, and along with the trigeminal nucleus. So these are all cranial nerve nuclei which will be present along with the ascending and the descending tracts into the posterior tegmentum part of the pons. Now, the descending longitudinal fiber bundles that we were describing, these were the descending longitudinal bundles. They are mainly the corticospinal fibers which traverse the pons, and then above in the midbrain they were compact bundles. In the pons they scattered between the pontine nuclei, and below they will reach where it will reach into the medulla. Again they will converge into compact bundles and occupy the level of the pyramids in the medulla. The corticonuclear and the corticonuclear fibers, which is the second part of the pyramidal fibers, they terminate either the contralateral or ipsilateral motor cranial nerve nuclei. And there is one more descending longitudinal fiber, that is the corticopontine fibers. The corticopontine fibers arises from the frontal, temporal, parietal, and the occipital cortex. So almost all the cortex of the cerebrum, and they terminate at the level of the pontine nuclei on the same side. So corticospinal are the longest running descending fibers, which reaches from the cortical level to the spinal cord level. Corticopontine arises from the same the cortex, but they terminate at the level of the pontine nuclei. So these are the three descending longitudinal bundles that will be seen in the level of the pons. Now, what are pontine nuclei? The pontine nuclei are basically the scattered small masses of gray matter, which is lying between the vertical fibers and the transversely running fibers. And what are they giving rise to? They are giving rise to transverse fibers of the pons. They are basically the relay station for cortico-pontocerebellar. So those cortico-pontocerebellar tracts from the cortex, arising from the cortex, terminating into the pons, and then finally going into the cerebellum. This is the cortico-pontocerebellar pathway. So they are the relay stations. Pontine nuclei are the relay stations for those fibers. Now, what are transverse fibers? These are the transversely running fibers, which are the pontocerebellar fibers from the pons to the cerebellum. They run transversely across the pons, and they are, when they are transversely running, they are definitely going to cross the vertical descending fibers, right? So if the vertical fibers are running like this, so perpendicular to that plane, you will find the fibers of pontocerebellar, right? So if suppose the fibers of cortico-spinal tract are running like this, so the transverse fibers will be crossing transverse to it, and they will be going towards the cerebellum. So there is a perpendicular angle to both the tracts at the level of the pons, and they are creating middle cerebellar peduncle going till the level of the cerebellum. Now we come to the dorsal part, which is the tegmental part. Now dorsal part is the upward continuation of the medullary reticular formation, and so upward continuation of the medulla, and white matter over here will have the ascending and the descending tracts. The gray matter is concentrated over here in the form of the cranial nerve nuclei. Just now I've told you this is the fifth cranial nerve nuclei. This is the sixth abducent. This is the seventh one, and the eighth vestibular component and the cochlear component of the vestibulocochlear nerve. And this is the fourth ventricle, so it forms the fourth ventricle. The tegmental part is in relation to the fourth ventricle. Now coming to the transverse sections of the pons. So first we'll do the transverse section at a lower level, that is at the level of facial colliculus. So these are the facial colliculus. This is the junction between the medulla and the pons. You should be able to differentiate between the two portions. This is the junction between the open part of the medulla, and this is the lower portions of the pons. This will be the upper portions of the pons. So we will first see the section along the facial colliculus. This facial colliculus is raised by certain nuclei, cranial nerve nuclei. We'll see which cranial nerve nuclei. So this is our first plane at the lower portion of the pons at the level of facial colliculus. So this is how it will appear. Now, this is the basilar sulcus, this is the ventral view, and this is a dorsal view. So posteriorly, whichever thing we are seeing in this is a dorsal view. This is seen over here, the posterior median sulcus. And this, then you can see this is a raised swelling. This raised swelling will be the facial colliculus on both the sides. This is the level of facial colliculus. And what should be underlying the facial colliculus? Remember, facial colliculus is not underlying, is not the facial nucleus, but the abducent nucleus. But why it is termed facial colliculus? Because the facial nerve nuclear fiber from the nucleus of facial nerve, the fiber of the facial nerve is overlying this abducent nucleus and then coming out from this point. This point is what? This is a point of pontomedullary junction. From this point, you had seen it emerging out. and the abducent nerve fiber will arise from this nucleus in this direction, the direction I'm pointing. So this is the abducent nerve, which is seen most medially, and then the facial nerve fiber, which is arising like this, which is appearing lateral to it at the pontomedullary junction. So this, remember, facial colliculus is the raised elevation on the dorsal aspect of the pons, which is created by the underlying abducent nerve nucleus and the overlying facial nerve fiber, right? And now look into the lateral aspects. This is the peduncle area that you can see, the inferior cerebellar peduncle. So the inferior cerebellar peduncle will be cut laterally from this. As you go lateral aspect, the inferior cerebellar peduncles will be cut. So these are the cranial nerve nuclei which are appreciable at the level of facial colliculus cut section. So this is the, so remember, from 5 to 8 cranial nerve nuclei. Number 5 is over here, spinal nucleus. Number 6, this abducent nucleus is over here, just beneath the facial colliculus, which is a raised elevation on the dorsal aspect in this level. And the 7th cranial nerve nuclei. And the 8th vestibulocochlear, this is vestibulocochlear, remember, this is not vestibular, this is vestibulocochlear. So vestibular part, vestibular nucleus over here, and the cochlear part, the dorsal and the ventral cochlear nucleus also lies at this level of the pons. Now let us see the gray matter arrangement in the transverse section. So remember, you do not have to draw the central canal over here because it is posteriorly over here, it is related to the 4th ventricle. So there is no central canal in the at any level of the pons. So these are the gray matter nuclei that are arranged at the level of the facial colliculus through the lower part of the pons. We'll do it one by one. So first we'll start with the cranial nerve nuclei. So this arrow is denoting the abducent nerve nuclei, which is just under the facial colliculus, and it is lateral to the medial longitudinal bundle. This is a medial longitudinal bundle, and you have to draw this abducent nerve nuclei just lateral to it. And what does it give rise to? It gives rise to, if in a similar fashion like this facial nerve fiber has been drawn, you can draw the abducent nerve fiber, which emerges out from the abducent nerve nuclei and is then coming out through the pontomedullary junction medial to the facial nerve fiber. Now, facial colliculus, this facial raised elevation, is formed by the loop formed by the fiber of the facial nerve, which is winding around the abducent nucleus. So this is how a facial colliculus is formed. This is the facial colliculus seen externally. Now, let us see the second cranial nerve nuclei, which is at this particular level, which is the vestibular nucleus, the vestibular nuclear component of the vestibulocochlear nerve, which is the 8th cranial nerve. So what is the role of this vestibular nucleus? It is going to receive afferents from the vestibular division of the vestibulocochlear nerve. It's a sensory nerve. So the efferents will go to the vestibulocerebellar tract, vestibulospinal tract, medial longitudinal bundle, lateral lemniscus, to carry the impulses of equilibrium. Remember, the vestibular nuclei has the role in the equilibrium, maintenance of equilibrium. So this is the vestibular nuclei that you have to draw just lateral to the facial colliculus area. Then the cochlear component of the vestibulocochlear nerve, the dorsal and the ventral cochlear nucleus, that you have to draw on the dorsal and the ventral aspect of the inferior cerebellar peduncle. It is basically the relay station for the pathway of auditory pathway, that is the hearing pathway. So they are going to receive afferents from the cochlear nerve. So like vestibular nuclei was receiving afferent from the vestibular portion of the vestibulocochlear nerve, this is going to receive afferents from the cochlear nerve of the vestibulocochlear nerve and is involved in the auditory pathway. This much you should know about these nuclei, cranial nerve nuclei. Now coming to the 7th cranial nerve. This is the motor nucleus of the 7th cranial nerve, and what does it give rise to? It gives rise to the motor fiber of the facial nerve, and it is lying where it is lying medial to the nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Nucleus of trigeminal nerve ki just medial to it is this seventh cranial nerve. So we have gone in a anti-clockwise direction from the abducent nucleus to the vestibular nucleus to the cochlear, then trigeminal, and then the facial nerve in this order from the anti-clockwise direction. So this trigeminal nerve is, and this is not only medial to the trigeminal nerve, but it is dorsal to the superior. This is the superior olivary nucleus. It will be dorsal to the superior olivary nucleus. Although it has not been drawn over here in this particular diagram, you should add this point that there is a salivatory nucleus, the superior salivatory nucleus, also just dorsal to the motor nucleus of the facial nerve. The nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, this is ventromedial to the cerebellar peduncle and just lateral to the facial nerve. So remember this anti-clockwise direction from abducent, vestibular, cochlear, fifth, and then seventh cranial nerve. All these in this particular order. Somewhere around this, again, it has not been drawn in this section, is the nucleus of tractus solitarius, which is lateral to the superior salivatory nucleus, and this is involved in the taste pathway. This is the superior olivary nucleus that I had shown. Now, nucleus of trapezoid body. This is the nucleus of trapezoid body, which is present in the anterior portion of the tegmentum area. In the anterior most part of the tegmentum area, you have the nucleus of trapezoid body, and then you have trapezoid body, which is a white fiber at this particular level. So its nuclear part is the gray matter part of the pons. So those were the gray matter nuclei starting from the cranial nerve nuclei level, and then I showed you the trapezoid body nucleus. So and the nucleus of tractus solitarius and superior salivatory nucleus. So those were the gray matter nuclei. Now we talk about the white matter of the pons. So white matter of the pons are arranged are two, that is trapezoid body and the lemniscal system. So the trapezoid body is in the median plane. This is the trapezoid nucleus and the trapezoid body, which is in the median plane. Then there is, can you see there is a proper lemniscal system over here from medial to lateral side as we go. There is medial lemniscus. This is the medial lemniscus. So if you compare this medial lemniscus cut section from the cut section of medulla, mein the medial lemniscus were more elongated anteroposteriorly, remember, and the fibers, sacral fibers, the lower limb fibers were arranged in the anterior plane, and the upper limb, the upper body fibers were arranged more posteriorly. So you have to imagine that medial lemniscus is now flattening transversely across the pons. So the sacral fibers, where will it go? When it is, suppose this medial lemniscus of medulla is flattening transversely, so the posterior fibers, that was the upper body fibers, will go medially, and the lower fiber, the sacral fibers, will appear laterally. Now the somatotopic representation is changed again at the level of the pons. So the medial lemniscus, which was there in the medulla, which was elongated anteroposteriorly, is now becoming flatter transversely. So we have the white matter in the form of a lemniscal system, all the ascending pathway, starting from this point. This is the medial lemniscus. Then you have the trigeminal one. So then you have, after medial lemniscus, you have that this is the trigeminal lemniscus. After trigeminal, you have the spinal lemniscus, and then you have the lateral lemniscus. Remember it like MTSL. So medial, trigeminal, spinal, and lateral lemniscus. In this order, you the ascending tracts will be seen, and the median most is the trapezoid body. So this is the order. And so these are the four lemniscal systems which are arranged from medial to lateral side. Now trapezoid body. What is trapezoid body? The trapezoid body are formed by the fibers of ventral and dorsal cochlear nucleus. Ventral and dorsal cochlear nucleus. The fibers from them is the trapezoid body, which are going to cross in the midline. Midline where in the anterior part of the tegmentum, and they give rise to the pathway which is called as the lateral lemniscus pathway. This is the lateral lemniscus pathway, and this is the auditory, ascending auditory pathway. So the lateral lemniscus, just now I had showed you, this is basically the lemniscal system or the ascending tract for the auditory pathway. Medial lemniscus was the ascending pathway for the posterior column, fine touch, proprioception, vibration. Remember? So this is the trapezoid body, which is the fiber from the cochlear nucleus, and they will ascend where it will ascend into the lateral lemniscus. Now, medial lemniscus we have done in detail many times. So medial lemniscus will be just posterior to the trapezoid and most medially present among the lemniscus system. This is the most medially present lemniscus, and it is oriented transversely. Remember, in the midbrain it was oriented in the anteroposterior plane, but here it is oriented in a transverse plane. So because the orientation has changed, so the upper body fibers which were lying posteriorly, because it has flattened, so now the upper body will be represented where? It will be represented medially, and the lower body which was represented anteriorly is going to be shifted to the lateral aspect of this medial lemniscus. It is the medial lemniscus will be joined by another tract, ascending tract, which is the anterior spinothalamic tract. That is why you can see this union between the medial lemniscus and the anterior spinothalamic tract. So together they are ascending up. This is the anterior spinothalamic tract. Now the next in order is this trigeminal lemniscus lateral to the medial lemniscus. So this trigeminal lemniscus, which is lateral to the medial lemniscus, is formed by the axons arising from the contralateral spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So this contralateral spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve is carried through this tract, which is the trigeminal lemniscus. So these lemniscus are basically ascending. The lateral one was was for the auditory, medial one was for the touch, vibration, proprioception, conscious proprioception, and this trigeminal is for the sensation, carrying sensation along the trigeminal nerve distribution. The area of the trigeminal nerve distribution is face, nose, mouth, tongue, conjunctiva. So from all these areas, the pain, touch, temperature, sensations, these are the sensations which is carried through the trigeminal lemniscus from the contralateral spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Now, lateral to this trigeminal lemniscus, this is the spinal lemniscus, which is formed by the spinothalamic, lateral spinothalamic and the spinotectal fibers. So the pain, temperature, sensation from the rest of the body is carried through the spinal lemniscus, and through the trigeminal lemniscus, the same sensation from the face area are carried through the trigeminal lemniscus. So this is a spinal. Now, after the spinal lemniscus, the lateral most lemniscus system is the lateral lemniscus, the arrow marked area over here. And this is the part of the auditory pathway and the most laterally present in the lemniscal band. From auditory pathway from the cochlear nucleus that we had seen, the afferents coming to it. So now once we revise all the lemniscal band, this can come as a question, the lemniscal band or the lemniscal system. So they will be comprising of the medial lemniscus, from medial to lateral if we go, medial lemniscus, then carrying the posterior column fibers, the fine touch, fine touch, discrimination, proprioception, conscious proprioception, vibration sensations. Then this will be the trigeminal lemniscus, which is carrying the pain, temperature from the area of distribution of trigeminal nerve, that is face, nose, tongue, conjunctiva. Then this is the area of the spinal lemniscus, and lastly is the spinal lemniscus, which is carrying the same pain, temperature from rest of the body, and the lateral lemniscus, which is for the auditory pathway. So now we see other tracts, white matter tracts at the level of the pons. So this is the ventral spinocerebellar, anterior spinocerebellar, spinal inferior cerebellar peduncle, and the tract of the trigeminal nerve, not the nucleus but the tract of the trigeminal nerve, and the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Please convert it into spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. So after we finish this, now let us see the second level of the pons, which is at the level of the trigeminal, at the trigeminal nuclei level, that is the upper, through the upper part of the pons. If we cut the section through the upper part of the pons, this is how the section will appear. So this is definitely the anterior, the ventral basilar part with the basilar sulcus. The rest of the things will be similar, like these descending corticospinal corticonuclear fibers and the pontine nuclei and the transversely running fibers over here. This posterior part will be the same, that is the tegmentum part. And now see the arrangement of the lemniscal system. They have now more flattened and have arranged into a more transverse plane. Unlike in the medulla, they were all arranged in a more anterior-posterior vertical plane, but now they have arranged into a transverse plane. And one more thing from the previous section that you can compare is that these lemniscal bodies were going from ventral to anterior. Now they are almost at the same level. They are almost at the same level. All the lemniscal bands are at the same level. So now let us see the gray matter nuclei one by one at this particular level, trigeminal nucleus. So you will see the principal sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve quite evidently, because it is at the level of the trigeminal nuclei. Secondly, you will see the motor nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, which is ventral to it, and the nucleus of the lateral lemniscus. These are the three major nuclear nucleuses that will be seen at the level of the pons. The lemniscal band that is quite appreciable over here is quite distinctive at this particular level, because they are all at same level. Remember the lemniscal band that we did from medial lemniscus, trigeminal, MTSL, the medial, trigeminal, the spinal, and the lateral lemniscal. They are all at the same level. So this is the medial lemniscus, followed by trigeminal, followed by the spinal, and followed by the lateral lemniscus. They are almost lying at the same plane. Why? Because they have arranged more transversely now. These are the four lemniscal systems. Now we come to the lesions of the pons. So with our knowledge of all the elements in the ventral and the dorsal part. So now vascular, any occlusion or hemorrhage in the pontine arteries or the basilar arteries will lead to the pontine hemorrhage, which is mostly a fatal condition, because we know all the important the respiratory centers is there in the pontine in the pons, so it is a quite mostly a fatal. And in less severe cases, you have the corticospinal tract injury, in which you will have the hemiplegia of opposite side, because this is the corticospinal tract which is traversing. So if there is a lesion over here, the opposite side of the body will be paralyzed, and there will be facial paralysis of the same side, because the facial nerve is also crossing. So the facial paralysis of the same side will be seen, and sympathetic fibers involvement will lead to the pinpoint pupil. Now, as we had seen in the medulla, we did medial medullary syndrome, and then we did the lateral medullary syndrome. Similarly, according to its location, there are two syndromes in the pons also, that is the medial pontine or the Maillard-Gubler syndrome and the lateral pontine syndrome. The distribution of the vascular vessels in the paramedian area is the paramedian branches of the basilar artery that was running into the basilar sulcus. So this occlusion will lead to the medial pontine syndrome. You can see the distribution of the basilar artery over here. This is the paramedian branches of the basilar artery. So if it is damaged, it is going to lead to this occlusion, which is the medial pontine syndrome. So what will be the effect? Try to see the nucleus that could be involved at this particular level with the knowledge that we have. So if we compare this area with the picture that we had seen, that the nucleus that will be involved is the abducent nucleus, the facial nucleus, and the transverse at this level, the transverse pontocerebellar fibers will be involved. So because of the abducent nerve nucleus, you know that the abducent nucleus supplies the extraocular muscle, the lateral rectus. So there will be paralysis of the lateral rectus muscle. The facial nerve, if involved, there will be a lower motor nucleus paralysis of the facial muscles. Because of the transfers pontocerebellar fibers, there will be ataxia. The cerebellar ataxia will be there. These all symptoms are onto the ipsilateral side, that is the same side. This diagram is not corresponding. You should have this over here. You should have the lower portion diagram should have been placed over here. I've put the upper part. So in the contralateral side, there will be, because of the involvement of the tracts. The tracts were also involved, so there will be the trigeminal lemniscus is trigeminothalamic tract, so there will be loss of pain sensation. All these midline tracts, paramedian tracts, starting from the medial lemniscus, so loss of discrimination, position sense, and tactile sensation, they will be lost in the medial lemniscus. Then this trigeminal tract, if it is involved, so loss of pain and temperature of the face will also be gone for the contralateral side. And because of the corticospinal tract involvement, there will be contralateral hemiplegia. Now coming to the lateral pontine syndrome. Lateral pontine syndrome with the occlusion of the perforating branches of the basilar and anterior inferior cerebellar artery. If that gets occluded, then it leads to the lateral pontine syndrome or the Fauvel's syndrome. In this, again, this is the incorrect picture that has to be incorporated. The other previous picture should have been here. I have mistakenly put this picture, but you have to draw that particular diagram in this. So in this particular lateral pontine syndrome is what all structure could go from here. The structures that can go over here is the motor nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, all those motor nuclei which were laterally present, right? So the motor nucleus of the trigeminal nerve will lead to the weakness of the jaw muscles and muscles of the mastication. And the facial nucleus also goes in this part also. So the lower motor paralysis of the facial muscles will be seen. The lateral, now the lemniscal system, the lateral portions. So the lateral spinothalamic tract, the spinal lemniscal will be involved. So the lateral spinothalamic tract will go. So loss of pain and temperature to that area. So these two syndromes should be clear to you before these. Before you analyze these syndromes, the cut sections should be clear. So you should draw these two sections at the level of the upper part of the pons through the trigeminal nucleus level and through the level of the facial colliculi, that was the lower part, passing through the lower part of the pons. Thank you.